Hi, everyone. Welcome to Making Multifamily Money. For this session, I want to mix it up and start to invite my students, my mentees, and also some volunteers who wanted just to interview me and kind of share about their real estate journey. So if you're interested in interviewing me, please send me a DM down below, respond to my YouTube video, place your contact down below, and I will definitely reach out to you. Or you can shoot me an email at sdatnuin@gmail.com. All right, first I want to introduce my first guest. Her name is Darlene Wu. She currently owns one single family home and is looking for ways to scale, which is what led her to reach out to me. So thank you, Darlene, for coming on, and just please share a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for having me on. I'm currently located in California. I'm working as a nurse. I recently bought my first single family home during the COVID pandemic. And then when I first bought my house, I wanted to rent it out to tenants and currently not really having much cash flow. So that's when I stumbled upon your YouTube channel and where you talk about your apartments and how it's easy to gain cash flow. So I wanted to learn more and investing into multifamily homes. Thanks for sharing your time with me and helping me on my real estate journey.
Yeah, Darlene, no, great introduction there. And just for some context, I started off very similar to you. Obviously, I'm based in California as well, and because I invest in California, both in the Bay Area as well as Orange County, I know that the average price of a home is close to $1 million. And when you buy a home at $1 million, the rent's going to be roughly around maybe $35 to $4,000. You're not going to really cash flow. So I definitely feel your pain with that, and know that I hit the same thing. My goal was to buy one single family home a year for 10 years. And after year three, I quickly realized that number one, California's only appreciation. There's no cash flow. If you focus on that, it's going to be hard to leave your W-2 job. And number two is that it's definitely not scalable. So I guess, what type of real estate are you looking to invest in specifically?
I'm looking to invest in probably a smaller apartment complex, maybe a 3 unit or 5 unit apartment complex. I want to start small and maybe gradually scale.
Okay, great. No, that's a great starting point for most people. But I guess, do you want to only invest in California? Are you open to out of state? Like, what specifically?
Oh, yeah. So I think it's probably wiser to invest out of state because I think the only saving grace with me last time when I bought my house was the low interest rates. But now interest rates are 6, 7%, so it's not really feasible to continue investing in California. So I want to invest out of state. So one of the questions I have is for someone new like me, what kind of market should I target? Is there a specific state that is kind of guaranteed to make me money?
Great question. So a lot of beginners love starting with the question of, where should I invest? I mean, naturally, most people's first inkling is to invest where they live, but I get it. We live in California. It's very expensive. So for me personally, I like to invest, and what I teach all my students and mentees is I like to invest in areas that meet three criteria. And let me share it with you. The first one is below the Sun Belt. So if you draw a smiley face on the US map, any state below that, I like to invest in. And the reason for that is it's a warmer climate. If it's warmer, you're not dealing with snow, you're not dealing with bursted pipes, and you're not dealing with all the headache that goes with that. And that's going to really ruin your capex. So as a result, I prefer the warmer climates for that reason. All you have to really worry about is landscaping, because it's a little hotter. So that's the first criteria. And the second criteria I like to look at is landlord friendly. So obviously in California it's more tenant friendly, where I've heard stories where it takes over a year just to evict somebody. But where I invest in Oklahoma, specifically Oklahoma City, it's very landlord friendly, or I can evict a tenant with a 15-day notice. And most of the tenants, to be honest, the moment I give them a notice, they just leave before the 15 days because they know that that's the law. And the third area that I look in is low property tax states. So, I know like Texas is a very hot market right now, but kind of one of the downsides is it has very high property tax. But versus like Oklahoma, for example, it has one of the lowest property taxes there. So, so that's kind of what I look at initially. And then to pick the individual city or specific market, I like to look at, is there job growth there? Or if jobs go there, you'll have renters that want to go there. Another one is there population growth? It goes hand in hand, right? If there's more jobs, there's going to be more population growth, which leads to more rental demand, which means you increase your rents, which is great for apartment complexes. So that's just kind of the framework that I use and teach. Does that kind of help clarify there, Darlene?
Yeah, that really helps. So I'll probably look into job employment statistics and wherever that doesn't have any state tax. That helps. And in terms of like right now, the economy, it's really hard to buy a home right now. It seems like it's not necessarily a the buyer's market anymore. Do you continue to buy in the good and bad times of economy?
Yeah, another great question. So, for those of you who watch a lot of YouTube content, that's all you see now, right? That's all the clickbait headlines like a real estate market crash is coming, a recession is coming. It's just all fear-based clickbait. And, for me personally, I don't really care what the market is. I'm always buying real estate. If it's a good market, I'm going to buy real estate. If it's a bad market, I'm going to buy real estate. If it's a recession, I'm going to buy real estate. If it's a bull market, I'll buy real estate. Buyer's market, seller's market, any market, I will literally buy real estate. The only difference I pick is my buying criteria. So let me share an example. So if it's during COVID when I bought real estate, and since you bought real estate during that time too, when interest rates were so low, what was happening? There's low inventory. People were overpaying by hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it was difficult to buy a deal. That's why I went off market, to be honest, because I just couldn't get any on market deals. Brokers were bringing me off market deals, but they're terrible. So instead of quitting, I learned how to do direct mail. And now I do direct mail for my students and for my clients. But that's the seller's market, right? It's low interest rates, low inventory, high competition, you're overpaying. Now the market is shifting to a buyer's market today. So why is it a buyer's market? Because the interest rates are high, like you mentioned. When I was buying, it was like under 3%. Now it's maybe 7%. And what happens when the interest rates goes up? It's harder to qualify for a loan. And as a result, people may not be overbidding for properties as before. So now there's more inventory. So it's pick your poison. Do you want low interest rates and no inventory, or do you want high interest rates and higher inventory? So to me, real estate is cyclical. So you have to learn and develop a strategy that works in the good times and the bad times. So let me give you a more concrete example. So for me, I do direct mail to get off market deals. As a result, I'm fishing in a different pond, right? I don't find my deals on LoopNet. I don't find my deals on Crexy. I don't find my deals on Zillow. I don't find my deals on Redfin. So as a result, I go direct to owner, and that helps me build trust with the owner directly. And by going direct to the owner, once you can solve pain points, build trust, that's how you get a good price, and that's how you buy right. For me, I don't care what the interest rates are. All I know about interest rates is the higher the interest rate, the banks look at something called a debt service coverage ratio. When you're buying real estate, that's 5+ units. So if it's a 1 to 4 units, it's residential. It's based on your debt to income ratio. So you have to have a good job, low debt, and they don't care about how the properties do income wise. Once you're at 5+ units, that is when the banks look at how much income the asset or property generates. And that is called the debt service coverage ratio, and they want that greater than 1.25. So if your interest rate's at 3%, it's easier to hit the debt service coverage ratio requirements with less cash flow. But the interest rate goes up, it's harder to hit that debt service coverage ratio of 1.25. So as long as you buy right and you get lending from the bank, then typically you'll be good. Because the way I phrase it is you're married to the purchase price and you date the interest rates. What does that mean? That means that you can buy it. If you buy right, you lock in your price. And when your interest rate's lower, in let's say 5 to 10 years, you can do a cash out refi or refinance your terms to lower that interest rate from 7% to like 4%. So to be honest, you just have to get really good at analyzing deals and finding good deals and doing it off market. And that's how you can buy in any market. So I really call my strategy is evergreen. Does that kind of answer your question, Darlene? Or do you have any additional follow-up questions?
Yeah, no, that helps. Yeah, because I was thinking since I recently bought my house about 2 years ago, I don't have much capital for a down payment, especially in California. And when you talk about off-market deals, does that mean I don't necessarily have to have the 20% down payment? Is there anywhere out there where we can negotiate that?
Great question. I guess before kind of answering it, can we kind of maybe take a step back? And I forgot to ask earlier in the video, but can you kind of remind me, I guess, what you do in terms of your day job?
I'm currently a nurse, and I do per diem at other hospitals too.
Okay, so basically, you're kind of high income W-2 working professional, just like me.
Yes.
Okay, and just so that I can get a better understanding, can you kind of tell us about your single family home that you own, like how much you bought it for, your interest rate, monthly payment, and what rent you're getting?
Yeah, so I bought in Chino Hills area in California. I bought it for $715,000. The interest rate I got it for was about 2.65 ish, and my monthly payments are around 2,300. After all the utilities, I would say I'm paying about 3,000, and I am able to rent a house for 3,100.
Okay, so you're basically cash flowing $100 a month, which is
Sadly, yes.
break even, and you're self managing, or do you have a property manager?
I'm self-managing at this moment.
Okay, got it. So if you had a property manager, which is typically 10%, you'd be cash flow negative.
Yes, that's
And
correct.
I mean, how much is the property worth today?
I was today is about over $800,000.
Okay, so
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 a lot of appreciation, which I appreciate.
yeah, so for those who are watching and don't know, so California, if you break even, that's pretty lucky. You have to self manage to just barely break even, not including capex and other maintenance. But their appreciation is crazy. Like Darlene just got $100,000 of equity in about 2 years. For me, I've made about $500,000 of equity over 5 years in California. So we get crazy, crazy appreciation. Um, okay, so basically you have some built up equity in there. You work a high income W-2 from what I'm hearing. And basically you want to know, like, do I need 20, 25% down to buy an apartment complex out of state? Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. I don't have too much saved up right now, so I just want to see if there's any options to go less than that.
Okay, great, great. So yeah, let me kind of share you my experience. So with off-market deals that I use using my direct mailing campaign, what's really nice is I get to work directly with the owner. And as I mentioned earlier, when you work direct to owner, it's a lot easier to negotiate directly versus when you have like two brokers involved, it's just like playing telephone. Like I tell my broker something, they tell their broker something, and then the broker tells the owner something. And by the time that happens, the message gets diluted 3 to 4 times, so the message gets misconstrued. So that's why I like to work direct with the owners, is so that you can have that face-to-face interaction and understand pain points and work together to solve a problem instead of making it transactional. So a lot of strategies that I teach my students is creative financing, right? So typically you need 25% down it, to buy an investment property. There's no way around that. With interest rates being higher, to suffice that debt service coverage ratio of 1.25, sometimes you have to down more than 25%. You might have to do 35%, maybe to 50%, depending on your deal, right? I don't know what the deal is, but that's what the lenders are looking at to hit that debt service coverage ratio. They may increase your down payment, which lowers your loan, and as a result, hit that ratio. But obviously, that's hard for someone new who's trying to scale. So, what I typically do is, there's three kind of strategies of creative financing. The first one is seller carry first. The only way to do so the seller becomes a bank. The only way to do that is if the property is owned free and clear with no loan. That's usually very rare, but if the person owned the property for 20 years plus, there might be a good chance that they owned it, or they own it free and clear, assuming they didn't do a cash out refi. The second option is seller carry second. So seller carry second just helps lower your down payment. So the example I like to give is, if let's say the bank requires 25% down, and let's just say you only have 15% down, you can see if the seller is willing to carry 10% note, so that it'll help lower your down payment. So it's a win-win all around, right? The bank gets their down payment, you only have to be put 15% down, and the seller will still earn 10% money, still get monthly cash flow by seller carrying second. The issue of that strategy is it's not very popular, and you have to be upfront with the bank because the bank's in first lien position, the seller's in the second lien position. And a lot of times you have to be transparent with the bank about that. If you're not, they may call the loan due. So it's not a very common option. The next one is subject to buying the property via master lease agreement or subject to. And what I love about this type of creative financing is basically it's number one, there has to be a loan on the property. There's typically a loan on the property. The property is distressed and the owner wants way too much money for that property. And as a result, that's when you can negotiate terms. So I'm always big on your price, my terms. I don't care what the price is, as long as you give me my terms. And what are terms? You're probably thinking, what are terms? So terms are down payment, interest rate, and how long the seller financing will occur for. And all that's negotiable, right? It can literally be 0% down, 0% interest, amortized over 30 years, right? That's what I love about subject to. So with that one, you can get deals with 0% down, 5% down, 10% down, 15% down. It's all negotiable. If they want 15% down, you can say, I'll give you 5% over 3 years. 5% year at the close of escrow, 5% year one, 5% year two. And if the property cash flows well enough, that cash flow will save up your down payment of that 5% that you owe every year. So that's what I love about creative financing. And kind of the last way that I use is ask for seller repair credit. So basically, when you do your due diligence, there's gonna be a lot of things that need to be fixed and repaired, like new roof, new water heaters, fix the plumbing, and you ask for a seller repair credit, which lowers your down payment. So those are kind of like four strategies that I used to get a lower down payment, and it's only possible if you go off market, from my experience. So I knew I threw a lot at you right there. With that, kind of additional follow-up questions that you had.
No, that was great. I think it's since right now it's a buyer's market, so I think it'll be really useful to be able to negotiate all the little things like down payment and interest rates and seller repair credits, so that it will be helpful in our favor. Out of all those four, which ones have you had success in? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. So on my 26 unit, um, I was able to get seller repair credit. So this one was a traditional bank loan that I qualified through Bank of the West, and basically I paid $7,000 to inspect all 26 units. And at the end, it came out that we need a new roof. There were about, I think, 7 electrical panels that have been recalled and need to be replaced because it's a fire hazard. Probably 10 water heaters that were not to code or near end of life. So as a result, there's a lot of things, right? When you're buying C-class apartment complexes like what I do, so it's over 20 years old, this is very common. But to me, instead of freaking out, just get a price associated with it. So I had a general contractor give me quotes, and then I basically presented those quotes to the owner along with the inspection report. So I'm very transparent in the process, right? I'm giving you my report, I'm giving you my quotes, and now I'm going to ask for a seller repair credit. So initially I asked for $120,000, and we kind of met in the middle where he gave me $60,000. So that helped lower my down payment from about $120,000 to about half. So I cut my down payment to around maybe 12, 13%.
Wow.
And basically that helped me leverage. So that's one method that I use, and I always do that method, right? Like I always do due diligence on a property. I'm always going to ask for seller repair credit because to me, the worst case is they'll say no. If they say no, that's your choice. Like, do you like the deal enough? Is it worth it, or is that a deal breaker? And that's for you to determine. But typically, if you go off market, like what I did, you're getting good deals. Like I made $250,000 of equity day one. I got it for $500,000. It appraised at $750,000. Would I break the deal over not getting $60,000 repair credit? I wouldn't. Right? It's not worth it. So I always advocate to all my students in my course that's it never hurts to ask. And the other one I did for my mobile home park was seller financing. So seller carry first specifically. So the owner actually paid off his loan. I think he had like $1 million loan. He paid it off, and then basically he became the bank. So there's no bank involved, and I only down 10%. I think I have 5% interest only with a 6-year balloon. So it actually deferred payments for a year. So for the first year, I'm not paying any money. I don't pay the owner any money. It's deferred, added to the back end of the loan. And starting after a year, I have to pay him roughly about $4,200 a month to have access to this money. So that's what I love about creative financing, right? I negotiate the down payment, only 10%. I put $100,000 down on $1 million mobile home park, 200 lots. I negotiated my term. I wanted 6 years. Interest rate was 5%. He wanted 7%. I got him down to 5%. And I also was able to defer interest payments for a year because there's so much that needs to be done for this park. So, that's why I said, like, you're only able to get these terms once you build that trust. And a lot of times where most of my students mess up is that they come out the gate with seller financing. Like I had a student just say, hey, I'll give you your price if you give me my seller financing terms. But what's missing in that equation? No trust was built yet. If you don't build trust and rapport, the first thing they'll say is no. It's very easy for the owner to say no to something they don't understand and to someone they don't trust. So a lot of my students, that's where they mess up. Like they're too impatient. They just come right out the gate with seller financing. That will automatically turn off the owner. You have to build trust. So I will run the property through multiple 3, 4, 5, 6 lenders. I know they'll get rejected. I know they'll get rejected. But then I would share that rejection with the seller so that they will get beaten down. Their expectations get beaten down not by me, but by the banker, the lender. They're the bad guy. And at the end, when they're beaten down, I come with my solution of creative financing, and I'm solving their problem. But they just didn't know they had a problem yet, so I'm helping them solve that. So yeah, that's kind of the hard part of negotiating creative financing, but it just takes practice and repetition.
Yeah, and it's so worth it, especially with the loan terms you got for your mobile home park. That's very impressive. Never heard anything like that before. And you said you were able to achieve this all through direct mailing. I just saw on your course website that you had your course plus direct mailing option. Can you tell me more about this?
Yeah, so kind of a product that, or course slash mentorship product that I offer, it's a little bit unique. So most that I've seen out there just offer a course, and there might be like weekly coaching calls, and it's kind of like you go through a bunch of modules. But what kind of helped me become successful is just consistently sending letters out. Like I sent out 1,800 letters over 6 months. That's 300 letters a month, right? And it sounds easy, right? I literally teach people how to do letters, exactly my system, everything. But where people fail is they just cannot consistently send their letters on a monthly basis for 6 to 12 months. With letters, it's a long-term game. You have to consistently do it over a long period of time to get results. And a lot of people want instant gratification. They want to send one letter out and get their 300 letters out and get their first deal. I will say I'm lucky. I sent out 1,800 letters. I was able to close on 2 deals, but that's not the case. I have honed soft skills and negotiations for 10 years throughout my pharmacy career, being a pharmacy director, right? So it's a lot easier for me, but for other people who may not have the soft skills, who are not natural at negotiations, it's going to take a lot more repetitions, right? And practice makes perfect. You have to do a lot of volume once you've done a lot of volume and talked to a lot of owners, that's how you get better. So just because I saw that a lot of students, they'd sign up, do letters for 1 or 2 months and stop and not get any success. So because of that, I offer a combo product where it's course, mentorship, and I'll do your letters for you and help tweak your letters based on the response. So I want my students to be the most successful. Um, and that's what determined to be the route to be the most successful. Like I literally got these great deals with equity day one if it wasn't for letters. Like honestly, if you asked me like 3 years ago, I think it's impossible to buy an apartment complex for under $1 million. And I literally have 46 units of apartment complexes, and if you add them both up, they're less than $1 million. So that's kind of about my course, but kind of the issue that I have, or a lot of students have, is it's just kind of their limiting beliefs, right? Like honestly, I can throw so much information at you. You might process it today, but in order to kind of take action, you have to remove those limiting beliefs that you had. So I kind of want to throw it back at you and maybe ask like, what? I know you bought a single family home a year ago. Like, what's holding you back from trying to scale? And another question on top of that is, why do you want to invest in real estate in the first place?
So for the most part, what's holding me back is I feel like I don't have much of a down payment, and I don't have the actual mentors around me that can like help me hold my hand and push me forward. Especially since I do listen to a lot of bigger pockets podcasts and from YouTube, but it's not giving me as much motivation. And I'm really scared to take that first step, especially calling up owners, sending them letters. I think your letter will really help me with that. And I'm sorry, what's the other question?
Yeah, I guess what's your reason for wanting to invest in real estate?
Oh yeah, another reason I want to invest in real estate is just that I can have the freedom, just the freedom with my time. If I'm able to work less, I would like that, and for my future.
Okay, great, great. Yeah, like I always like to start with your why because it's very important and it gives me context to give you the best piece of advice. So, my why is very similar, right? Like I'm doing real estate because right now, me and you, we exchange time for money. When you work in a W-2, you exchange time for money. And, working as a pharmacy director for 10 years, I quickly, hit the top and realized that I'm gonna live a very good lifestyle, right? Like we're nice, high income W-2 jobs. I know nurses make good money too. All the double overtime that you guys get, and you work 3 12-hour shifts, and it's typical to work multiple jobs and get overtime. Very common in nursing. So I know that you're a very high income earner, but eventually it's hard to be detached to that time, right? Like if we work part time, we cut our salary in half, right? And sometimes it may be a bit hard, especially if you have student loans like me. I came out with $250,000 of student debt. We live in a high cost of living area in California where rents, to rent an apartment is like $3,000, and maybe we got accustomed to a certain lifestyle, right? So that's why a lot of us like to invest in real estate, or maybe we have the option to maybe supplement half our income so that I can work part time, or maybe if you supplement your whole income, you have the option to just retire or work on as a need basis. So that definitely resonates with me. But kind of from what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that basically you feel like you feel like you kind of have fear, and that fear of like not knowing what the next step is. I mean, I get it; it's very intimidating, but it just seems like there's a lot of fear that's kind of causing a lot of, I guess, paralysis and inaction. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's analysis paralysis, especially when I first bought my single family home. I mean, this was the biggest investment of my lifetime, so I definitely had analysis paralysis with that. And then for my future investment, the multi-family home out of state, especially not being able to actually drive to it or see it, it's definitely a scary thing. And it's like, how will I be able to trust my property managers being offsite? So I think having a mentor will be definitely really be helpful with that.
Okay, yeah. So what I'm kind of hearing is basically there's a lot of fear of the unknown, right? Like number one, you're gonna be new to apartment complexes. That's a new fear, right? Another fear is investing out of state, right? Like
Yeah, absolutely.
buying in like Oklahoma and Alabama. And to be honest, I've never really stepped into those states. You probably haven't either until I literally had a property under contract. So it's like in an area you don't know. Number three is you've never worked with a property manager before, right? That's a new concept to you as well. Like, how do you manage this remotely? Maybe there's a fear of time. Like, what happens if like the deal doesn't do well and you have to fly over? So, I guess let's just kind of did I kind of accurately summarize all your fears? Are there any additional fears that I maybe missed or?
No, those were great. Another one I have is probably no one to really hold me accountable. My fear is that if, when I send letters for maybe 3, 4 months, I don't hear back, owners don't call me back, I probably just give up. And then I see it as like a waste of time, waste of money, and just throw in the towel completely.
Okay, so to kind of summarize, basically, and a lot of my students have the same issue, just lack of discipline, where it seems it's hard to do something when it's you don't get results instantly.
Exactly. I'm also a kind of impatient type of person.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I guess I'm hearing a lot of fears, which honestly, a lot of real estate investors, myself included, had it. But I'm also hearing that you want to have options, right?
Yeah, yeah, but how did you overcome these fears? Is it just through practice?
Um. Yeah. Like for me, I didn't realize I had limiting beliefs until I basically met or kind of met the right people that guide me in the way I wanted. So let me give you an example. So at first, my family background is, they just own a primary residence, right? And maybe they trade up to a bigger house and maybe they kept the old house to use as a rental. That's the most I've seen, growing up in the Bay Area. And maybe that's what maybe you're used to seeing too from your parents and family. But so as a result, what's kind of natural to me and probably to you is just buying a single family home in California, right? That's what everyone does, and it seems more natural. But to me, I also did have the fear of like, oh, how do I invest out of state? Like, how do I manage a property manager? What if they cheat me? What happens if everything messes up? The property manager cheats me, steals my money, and then I need to go to Oklahoma. I'm busy, right? I'm working a full time W-2. Like, I can list 1,000 fears for you, to be honest, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
natural. We're human beings. We're very fear based and very reactionary. But to me, what really, really limited my or broke my belief was honestly, I thought you had to be very rich to buy apartment complexes because that's what I seen, and I just automatically assumed buying apartment complexes was impossible unless you were very rich and had a big business. So that was my limiting belief, right? And then number two was I thought you had to do a big apartment deal because it costs more. You have to do it with partners. And I'm like, how am I going to find a partner, right? Like most of my family and friends, they don't care about real estate. They don't understand what it is. Most of my friends just rent. I'll be honest. My parents hate debt, right? They just want to own a home, pay it off. So I can't really find a good partner, and I'm not sure if I want a partner anyways, because like I'm doing real estate for freedom, right? I don't want to have to listen to a partner and make decisions together, right? That's another limiting belief. And number three was I just didn't see anybody who works at W-2 and owned real estate, like apartment complexes, right? Like I never saw anyone. Like all the real estate investors I see, like you mentioned bigger pockets, all the ones I see on bigger pockets, they don't work full-time W-2, right? A lot of those investors were not good in school, right? They didn't may not went to college or didn't do well in college, or maybe had a degree that wasn't as translatable to the workforce. And as a result, they had to do real estate to survive. But like me and you, I'm assuming you're pretty book smart to be a nurse, right? I'm clearly book smart to be a pharmacist. So, school wasn't an issue for me, and I don't have to do real estate as a necessity in my job. But I just I thought it was a full time thing, right? Like you need to do real estate full time to manage your apartment complex. And I just never saw someone do it. But the moment I saw a bunch of people like me, right, work full time W-2, um, work full time jobs, they work full time, they have family obligations, they work a full 40 hours a week, they're very highly intelligent people. You don't have to be intelligent to invest in real estate, but I just saw someone like me who owned an apartment complex out of state. And once I realized that, I'm like, well, if they can do it, like, why can't I do it? Like, let me learn from them. So, that was kind of my limiting beliefs. And then once I had those limiting beliefs shattered, all of a sudden my brain thought ways like, oh, this is how I can do it now. And this is how I was able to scale rapidly. Once I broke that limiting belief, I scaled from like single family homes to like 90 units where I am today. So, hopefully some of that resonates with you and answers that question.
Yeah, no, that's really inspiring, especially we come from a similar backgrounds, both hardworking families. We have like stable careers in the medical field, and that really shows that like if you can do it, then yeah, I can definitely do it. And especially, I can definitely utilize you as a mentor for this.
Yeah, and that's the route I went to too, right? So, I like to throw this example. Obviously, I'm a pharmacist, you're a nurse, but when nursing, you do something called layered learning, right? When you're a first year nurse, you learn from a second year nurse. When you're a second year nurse, you learn from a third year nurse. When you're a third year nurse, you learn from a fourth year nurse. When you're a fourth year nurse, you're learning from an actual nurse that's practicing. That's called layered learning, and you're learning from somebody one step ahead of you. If you're, and the reason for that is your brain is not ready to receive information yet. When you're a first year nurse, there's some things that a real nurse will tell you, it just flies over your head, right? Like I'll be honest, I see a bunch of people on bigger pockets. They own $4 billion of real estate, and when they say something, it just flies over my head because I'm just trying to buy a 10-unit apartment complex, for example, right? Not the thought of 4 billion. Automatically, my brain goes to this is impossible. I'm not going to listen no more because it's not applicable, right? But if I learn from somebody who just bought a 10-unit apartment complex, like what I want to do, they're just one step ahead of me. That is more relatable. So if they tell me something, I'm more likely to listen, right? So that's why I tell all my students, I'm one step ahead of you. You literally can buy one apartment complex, you'll be close to where I'm at, right? I own three, but like you buy one, then you buy another one, you're a lot closer to me versus somebody who owns, 5,000 units in they syndicate, right? Like that even to me is like way over my head. It flies over to me. So that's what's nice about kind of that later learning. And, what kind of drew a lot of people towards me is, I'll be honest, a lot of my students, they're high income W-2. They have a lot of family obligations, right? They work 40 hours a week. They got young kids who are maybe 5 to 14 range, and they're taking care of their elderly parents, and they're just very crunched for time. And I get it, right? So that's why I kind of created my course because I'm a busy W-2 working professional. I know exactly the pains we go through. So that's why I created a system for busy working professionals created by a busy working professional. And I know the failure point that you mentioned earlier is staying disciplined to your letters. A lot of people cannot do it, right? I see a lot of students, they do 1 to 2 months and then they give up and they'll never see results and you just wasted your money on mailers, right? So what's the solution that I'm giving my students is I offer a service. or I'll do the letters for you. So if it's all paid up front to me, right? So basically, I get paid, and I'm gonna do your letters for you for 6 to 12 months. So it's guaranteed done, right? It's all you have to do is pick up your phone when they call.
When you
So it's a
say, oh, sorry, I have a question. So when you say for these like direct mailers, do I choose the market or do you choose it for me?
yeah. So let's just run through the hypothetical. Let's just say you wanted me to do your mailers for you, right? So typically we'll hop on a call, and I'm gonna ask, okay, what market do you want to do? And obviously in my course, I have a whole module to pick your market, right? So for me, I chose Oklahoma because I have a good property manager there. I mean, maybe you have a good property manager in Tennessee. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. So we would help determine your market and try to pick a market where you have unfair advantage. So you might have connections, you might have a hookup, whatever, right? If you don't, I have a system to find your market too. So we'll pick your market, and then basically from there, I'll pull a list of the data for you. I'll kind of remove the duplicates ones. And from there, once I have your data list, we want to see how big it is. And let's just say it's 1,800 letters, right? 1,800 data points. So we do 300 letters a month. It's going to take you 6 months to hit that. So we'll pick your market. And then basically, what I do is on the second Monday of every month, I send out the letters. And on the second Friday of every month, that's when people will start to call you. So you typically will get a calendar reminder on your phone that I'll send to you. That second Monday, your letters are going out. And by the second Friday, start to answer, respond to the calls within 24 hours. If they text you, respond. If they email you, respond. If they call you, call them back if you missed it because you're at work. So typically we do that. And after that, after we send out the first months of letters, we're going to start tracking your data. How's it doing? What's your response rate? What can we do to tweak it to get you a better response rate? How can I coach you to better talk to these owners? And that is how you take down the deals. Does that kind of make sense as to that process?
Yeah, that's a great structure. I can tell you're a very systematic kind of person.
Yeah, yeah. So well, as you know, work in a hospital, right? Like you probably work pharmacist, so we're very detail oriented, very system oriented, and the way I phrase it is by offering this service, there's no excuse, right? If you're disciplined, by all means, I teach people how to do it themselves. But people I know, they will fail. They're not disciplined to sustain. For me, I'm unique in the sense I'm just very disciplined. You tell me to do something, I'll do it for like 3 years without stopping. Be very systematic about it. But because of that excuse I was getting, I wanted to take more control in my hand and say, I want to offer service to you so that have the highest rate of success. Because that what made me successful. So it's just like Uber Eats, right? Like if it's convenient, easy, or like buying Amazon, if it's convenient, if it's easy, people are more likely to want to do it. So that's why I offer that option, right? So I have a lot of students where they try to do it themselves for 2 months, and then they'll pay me to do it for them for 12 months because they realize that they're not disciplined enough. And I get it, right? There's a lot of obligations going on. And just to be able to remove one thing off your plate, it may be worth it for you. It may be not worth it for other people. So it just really depends on what you're able to do.
Yeah, I really like this very straightforward approach. So it's basically getting an apartment is as easy as picking up a phone, right? And
Yeah,
from there, you can help us mentor in terms of like negotiation strategies and how to get these off market deals.
exactly. And for those who aren't as natural, I do have a owner questionnaire form where we go over 10 questions, and I put in order for strategic reasons. But the whole point of the first conversation isn't really much get information about the property. It's just to build trust and make yourself seem like a real person. I'd say, fortunately for you, you're a nurse. Nurses are very personable people. You have to be. You're taking care of 5 patients on your unit, and you're constantly talking to them. You're talking to the family. You're coordinating the pharmacy. You're coordinating the doctor. You're just a coordinator. You're talking to everybody. So you already have a lot of the soft skills of building trust. We're healthcare professionals, right? That's our natural ability is to build trust and rapport with people, and it translates very well into negotiating with owners. Like you'll be very surprised. That's why I learned very quickly when I started responding to owners. So it's just that repetition, and you'll be surprised on how well your skills translate over to that. So, that's why I encourage just do it. Like remove all barriers and remove all excuses and just answer your phone, right? If you can do the letters, great. If not, at least answer your phone and answer the phone within 24 hours to set up another phone call. That's it. So I'm trying to simplify the process as much as possible. Unfortunately, I can't pick up your calls for you because, obviously it's hard for me to speak about you, but it's just a skill that's probably the most valuable skill that you will need to learn.
Yeah, that sounds easy enough. So, what kind of character traits do you think is probably the most fundamental one in terms of all the success that you have today?
Yeah, as I kind of alluded earlier, what kind of helped me be successful is, well, number one is having your limiting beliefs be broken, right? So for me, I had mine's broken in early 2021, and that's when I scaled. And I discussed earlier what my limiting beliefs were. Number two is basically being persistent, right? Like, are you able to do boring work for long periods of time without much results and still continue doing it? Right? Like the example I give is, can you send out letters, 300 letters a month for 12 months without getting much results or not even getting your first property yet? Right? It takes a lot of discipline and it's very discouraging. I'll be honest, right? You're spending money, on this mailing campaign and there's no results, but honestly, all it takes is one. My first apartment complex, I made $250,000 in equity day one, right? Like, you know, how, even if you spend $40,000 on letters over a year, but you made $250,000 equity day one, that's $200,000 made. I think anyone will take that deal. So you have to have a long-term view and be very persistent. And number three is you always have to learn, right? Like we're lifelong learners in healthcare. And the key is learning from the right people, right? You have to learn from people who've been doing it and are doing what you want to do and will give you the tips to mitigate that, right? So what I tell people is I made like a $10,000 mistake with my 20-unit apartment complex. And I basically create a whole lecture in my course about how to mitigate that $10,000 mistake so that my students will not make the same mistake, right? So that's what's nice about learning from someone one step ahead of you is that I'm making all the mistakes and then teaching my students. So it's giving a lot of value to your students. And number four is just surrounding yourself with people that are constantly doing it, right? Like, I'll be honest, probably most of my friends and family, they don't own apartment complexes. So I thought it was weird. But in my community, in my mentorship, you see many people buying their first apartment complex. So it makes it known that it is possible. And it's very encouraging to hear it, right? So you have to surround yourself with the right people. So, I think those are the traits that kind of helped me be successful. And a lot of people that I know that they're like, oh, I don't want to pay for a course. I don't want to pay for a mentorship. There's a lot of free stuff out there. And yes, it's true. Like that's how I went. I learned a lot of free things in bigger pockets, but the issue is it's not systematized, right? It's not organized. You're just getting nuggets here and there. Most likely the people you're learning from are way above your level, right? They might be a nurse already when you're only a first year nurse, and they're giving you advice that may fly over your head. And a lot of times, these people may not even be actively investing in real estate, right? Like I see a lot of people go on the Bigger Pockets podcast. I own more real estate than them, right? So it's really, you have to pick who you surround yourself with correctly. And, if someone like me resonates with you, then I'd be a great person for you to learn from. If you want to syndicate to 1,000 units, that's not me. I'm not a syndicator who has 1,000 units. So maybe you want to learn from someone who is a syndicator. So, those are kind of what I've seen help people be the most successful. And I guess the last one is just being able to take action with limited information and knowing that you will make a mistake. But as long as you learn from that mistake, don't repeat that mistake, and be okay with knowing that you'll never know anything. I know a lot of real estate investors who've been doing this for 40 years. They're still making mistakes to this day. So it's just a continuous learning process.
That's great. Thank you for that, Stephen. I'd love to continue to follow you in your footsteps, especially going from like a single family home to like a multifamily. I'll be sure to contact you about your mentorship and course. As we wrap up 2022, my New Year's resolution for next year is to continue to push myself financially. Since I'm still young, I don't have a family, and I want to push myself and take action in terms of real estate.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess to kind of summarize and wrap things up, I guess the question I have for you is, I know we discussed all your limiting beliefs and your fears earlier. I mean, I guess what do you kind of feel now after kind of talking everything out?
I feel like I have more guidance in terms of what I want. I know what kind of resources I can use, and also basically like I don't need a large down payment for that. Especially for a single family home, anything less than 20% requires PMI. But it seems like for apartment complexes, everything is negotiable. There's so many different strategies in terms of creative financing. You can basically tailor it to what works for you. So I think that's super valuable, and that's a great thing I'm taken out from this our conversation today.
Great. No, I'm glad that you were able to kind of learn something, take a few nuggets away, and hopefully springboard you into 2023 and hopefully get your first apartment complex, right? That's kind of the goal here. Any kind of final questions that you had?
No, just wanted to ask, um, for other people who want to reach out to you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, as I kind of mentioned earlier in the video, please like, comment, subscribe. You can shoot your email in the comments below, and I am typically pretty responsive there. And you can check out all my social media handles at Making Multifamily Money on Instagram, TikTok. You can also type that on YouTube and probably find me as well. And um, once again, thank you, Darlene, for everything. And to kind of finally wrap it up, if anyone is interested in interviewing me and doing some type of format like this, please reach out to me directly. I am looking for some more people to interview me and to kind of provide some of this one-on-one coaching style moving forward. Thank you once again to everyone, and hope to see you in the next one. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.